It's the grand final of Valorant Champions in South Korea. Whoever wins this match will take home the World Championship and $1 million in prize money, but after 4 grueling hours of gameplay, the score is neck and neck. The two teams battling it out on stage are Team Heretics, representing Europe, and Edward Gaming, representing China. If you're unfamiliar with Valorant esports, then seeing a Chinese team in this position might not seem that surprising. But it really is. You see, Valorant is quite different to most esports in one particular aspect. In League of Legends, Korea is known as by far the most dominant region, winning 9 of the last 12 World Championships. In CSGO, it's been 7 years since a European team didn't win a major, and European teams have also won the last 7 TIs in Dota. Usually one region dominates the rest, and any big tournament win from another region is seen as a landmark event. In Valorant, however, it's actually the opposite. The Champions Trophy has been passed between Europe, South America, and North America, and with a Korean team finally winning Asia their first major trophy in 2024, it seemed that all of Valorant's major regions were on a level playing field. Well, apart from China. But that made sense. Valorant released everywhere else in 2020, but China had to wait until 2023 for the game to officially release. They were 3 years behind everyone else, and so it was only natural that their top teams would be much worse than everyone else's. It would take a very special team, with very special players, to overcome a disadvantage like that anytime soon.
It's one man, what can he do against the might of EDG? Absolutely squat!
But Edward Gaming are a very special team, and this is their story. Among the hustle and bustle of the 4th biggest city in China, a boy called Jung Mingjiao was born. His parents were expecting him to have a respectable career that would bring pride to the family, but as he grew up, it was clear he wanted to do anything but that. There was only one thing he wanted to be: a professional gamer. He was addicted to Counter-Strike 1.6, playing countless games every day to hone his skills. He used the gamertag ZMJJ and dreamt about making it to the top level to play against the best players in the world. Unfortunately though, he was daydreaming about that while still in school, and his parents weren't happy with how much time he was spending in front of the computer, so as he grew older and life took over, his dreams fizzled out. But it was around that time that his younger brother was old enough to start gaming himself, and who better to mentor him than his older sibling? With the help of his brother, Jung Yongkang started playing video games from a young age, and was introduced pretty early to the tactical shooter genre that had captured his brother's interest. He played every shooter he could: CSGO, Overwatch, PUBG, and eventually, he got so good that he followed in his brother's footsteps, and adopted the very same dream of becoming a pro gamer. But in the very same city, there was another teenager who loved video games. Wang Shunxue lived with his mother and grandparents in Chengdu, growing up in a single-parent household. His skill at PUBG was also exceptional, far above the average player, except with his family's situation, it didn't seem feasible that he could make a career out of playing video games. And in the next prefecture over, in the city of Chongqing, Guo Haodong worked in his family's noodle shop, but when his shifts were over, he spent his time playing TAC FPS games like CSGO and Crossfire, reaching an extremely high level, although eventually it seemed like his gaming days would be left behind to get a stable job as a mechanic. And in the northeast of China, Wang Shenshu also had parents who disapproved of his seemingly endless nights sitting in front of the computer. Kongkong, Chichu, Haodong, and Nobody, 4 Chinese teenagers with the same dream: playing video games on the biggest stages in the world. But it wasn't until Valorant that these dreams became real. A new tactical FPS from Riot Games, the legendary developers behind League of Legends. It immediately grabbed the attention of the Western world, and it was apparent that Riot would try and turn Valorant into the next big esport. Do you remember the very first Valorant event that you casted?
I can't even remember that Ignition series and First Strike, but anyway, I casted both of them.
But while the rest of the world enjoyed Valorant's first few international events, China was still in the shadows. In China, games don't just release. They have to go through a vetting process by the governing body to make sure they're suitable for a Chinese audience. And with Valorant running into difficulties with that process, it meant it wasn't going to be officially released in China for at least a few more years, which left Chinese gamers trying to find ways around these restrictions. They turned to VPNs, which allowed them to change their server location to somewhere outside of China, like Hong Kong for example, which in turn would let them download and play the game before it was officially released. And so a small underground Chinese community did begin to form around the game in late 2020.
And it feels like that is really difficult time or dark times for Chinese players. You have to get every chance that you have, get every time that you have to get some practice, get proper matches, get proper teammates, and that is a really difficult time.
That community included Nobody, Haodong, Chichu, and Kongkong, who played in some of the earliest Chinese Valorant tournaments under various orgs. And during these tournaments, it became clear that they were some of the best talents in China. So when the best org in China came calling, they answered. Edward Gaming is a major esports org in China, with their popularity booming after winning 2021's League of Legends World Championship. And with the release of Valorant and its international events already garnering worldwide attention, EDG looked to invest heavily in the game early on in China. They went through countless players from mid-2020 to early 2022, and eventually ended up with a roster of Haodong, Nobody, Chichu, Kong, and Life.
Yeah, to be honest, during 2020 and 2021, and back then, I don't know them very well.
But even though they were quite unknown in the scene, very quickly EDG started winning. 2022 was the first year with a proper Chinese tournament circuit, and EDG completely dominated. They had cemented themselves as the single best team in China, and they'd done it at the perfect time. Because the 2022 East Asia LCQ was the very first tournament where Chinese teams would play against international competition, let alone their first chance to qualify for an international LAN. The two best teams from China were selected to represent their region in this first global appearance, K1 and EDG. No one knew how they'd match up to international competition, and for non-Chinese audiences seeing these teams for the first time, the players were complete unknowns. On top of that, they only had one chance to earn a spot on the international stage. It was first place or nothing.
We all know that, except from EDG, other teams have very little chances. We know that EDG is the only hope.
First match against Korean veterans Onslayers demolished them 13-3, 13-7. The next game against the Japanese squad Reject, another 13-3 in map 1 to win flawlessly. Upper finals against Northampton, the Japanese team who had just gone to Masters Copenhagen, another 2-0 win with a 21-19 score on map 2, with Kang dropping 43 kills on Raze.
I think after the first, one or two matches, it feels like, I think EDG have a fair chance to do that. They have the ability, they have the potential, they have a very good mechanics and also a very good macro play. So I think after one or two matches, it feels like, it could be real.
They bulldozed the competition, winning every single map with a flashy and aggressive playstyle that was hugely entertaining to watch, and it put them and China a single win away from champions.
Waits it out. They know exactly where he's at. TS getting one. Spotting him. The swing out and Life gets the headshot. 13-9 is as good as it gets. But EDG, the beasts from the East, they will make the undefeated run through the East Asia LCQ.
Edward Gaming's emphatic LCQ win meant they'd qualified to Champions Istanbul. They were placed into Group A, alongside some staple teams of international Valorant, Leviathan, Team Liquid, and PaperX, who had just finished second at Masters Copenhagen, and who were their first opponents. Not the easiest matchup to start your international record off with. EDG weren't experienced enough to take down PaperX in this match, but they showed some serious potential. The loss sent them down to the lower bracket to face Team Liquid, and they couldn't produce the magic that they needed to take down the European team.
There is some gap between China and other regions. We can see that EDG is still very young, and we also know that this community is really immature, and we don't even know when this game will be officially published in China yet.
Last place was a disappointing finish, but considering the journey they'd already gone on just to make it here, it was extremely respectable. They'd shown the world that Chinese Valorant was on the rise, and many wondered if, with more experience, they'd be able to make a run in their next international appearance. But it didn't quite work out that way. Lock-In was a pretty unique tournament for one specific reason. Every game was a knockout match, a single elimination bracket all the way to the final. For fans, it was incredible to watch. For teams, not so great. One loss and you were out and sent home, which for Edward Gaming meant a 24-hour flight back from Brazil to China. And if you got a tough first round draw, it was almost game over before the tournament had even begun. That unfortunately was the case for EDG, who got matched up against 100 Thieves. They were regarded as North America's best team at the time, and picked by many as favourites to win the tournament, but they had no option. It was win and progress, or lose and go home.
Final round of regulation, EDG, 1 round away.
EDG looking to deal a devastating death blow to 100 Thieves. 1 round to decide it.
It's almost all on the IGL right now.
Oh! No way! He's gonna get both! He's gonna get both, and he does! Stellar does as well, but Smoggy trading it back a 1v3 for tournament life! Again, the heroics have been so good, and they're not gonna deliver this time around! 100 Thieves avoid disaster! They take down EDG, and they move on!
It was a tragedy. EDG had come 1 round away from their first international win, upsetting an America's Titan in the process, but they just couldn't push it over the line.
I think for EDG, it's still not mature back then, because there are a lot of problem on their mental. They are not really prepared for the match. They are not confident enough. And in every match, they feel like their opponents is way like stronger than themselves. It's natural. It feels natural because before EDG, no one has ever done that. They are the pioneers.
And so they flew back to China, still winless on the global stage. They dominated China's regional scene once again to qualify for Masters Tokyo, and when EDG's group was revealed, housing international veterans like NRG and Na'Vi, Tokyo seemed even less like it could be a breakout tournament for China. EDG's first opponents were T1, the third seed from VCT Pacific, which was a winnable game, but they seemed to be destined for heartbreak once again.
But 6 rounds unanswered here. EDG on the brink of closing out the third.
Smoggy tried so desperately in that last round, but the time is running away from him, slipping through his fingertips as T1.
History repeats itself for EDG.
I personally casted that match, the first match to T1, and still feels like it could be anyone's game. But anyways, they lost it and they go into the loser bracket and they still haven't got their first ever international win. They are pressure.
But after the loss to T1 and an elimination match against former international champions Na'Vi to follow, it looked as though they would have to wait until Champions for that elusive win.
Before that match, to be honest, I remember that I don't really believe that EDG could win the game.
Take a miracle. One jump spot, collateral. Gang, the emphasis is placed, and a shot lands, but he just cannot manage it. Plenty of updrafts as well to go. What can he do with it? Up in the air, the reactions. Way, one bullet left. Of course, Kangang's going for it. He's feeling it. Smoggy has maybe made this one winnable. 19 seconds. Spike drop down. His favourable spam. But screams the reload. Fight there for the taking. Incredible stuff! Again, Chichu will be the one to fall, reckoning everything being expended is desperation for EDG to hold on! And Howard Dong, he might just be the man to do it. Nanoswarm's deaded, shots landing! Zipan, a sliver of health, turret in his face, not planted for him. Wide to the side, a cove as well. It's inevitable! It's inevitable! We are going to OT! This is it, surely. The finisher, Kang seeks to deliver the final blow. Nobody's there. 3 kills, 9 turn, once more, straight through. Map 1 is theirs. Returns the fire, brings out with 2 to get to. Also collapses and collides. Snakebite at his feet, trying to get the res off. There it is. Adjustments necessary. Detainment. Is it there? It is. Hands up. Kang seeks to claim the kill. There's a rifle. Here's the flash. Why not? Take a fight. Sagetsu says, I dare you. Second guesses it with the off. This man is playing gun game. 13-12. Once more, it's Edward Gaming granted a chance to close this out. Double clear onto the flank for a short. Navi, they're still sticking around, and they are paying for it. Edward Gaming. They converge, they collapse, they strike them down, and China get their win.
Chinese Valorant had arrived. But the tournament wasn't over. T1 had lost to NRG in the upper bracket, which meant a rematch was on the cards. EDG had already come so close to beating T1, and now with the momentum on their side, they played with unlimited confidence.
I don't think they noticed that it actually connected very, very well. Plays in Howdong just perfectly. Side play, a little bit of a fumble there. Smoggy to make the most of that as well. Gets the trade. Oh, Kang as well. Connects onto Zeta, leaving Munchkin in a rough situation. This guy's a superstar in the making, isn't he? 22-11. He's putting on a show.
I think half the audience of China right now started watching Valorant games since that Kang shows his dominance, because he's just so attracting people. On the stage, he's very aggressive with a very oppressive game styles and very good mechanics, and also he has very good personality, and personality that included in 2 things. The first is he's really like showing off on stage. He's really enjoying the vibe. I can't imagine too many like Chinese players have that, because most like Chinese players that I met is they are really shy. They don't want to show too much of their personality on stage. But Kang looks different. And the second part of the personality is he's really humble. like when he's like facing media or when he's facing like casters like us. Very polite, very humble. He's the perfect person to attract the first bunch of Valorant China's fans.
And of course, with Kang pulling off plays like that, they couldn't lose. They'd secured China's second international win and their first international playoffs. They were among the top 8 teams in the world, but the tournament would only get harder from there. Their first match was against a red-hot Liquid team, but for one of EDG's players, it was more than just another match. You see, even though they couldn't participate, the Chinese players had watched the early international VCT events with great interest, and in 2021, Nats made a case for being the best player of the year. He completely innovated the lurking playstyle, becoming a star player on a much less flashy role, somehow constantly ending up behind the enemies. And for a player like Chichu, who played the very same agents as Nats, it was hugely inspirational. Nats' gameplay became the basis of Chichu's own playstyle, and he looked up to him all throughout EDG's ascension through the Valorant scene. So for Chichu, this was more than just any match. It was a chance to play against his idol.
And still lays claim to it. It's a one-on-one. To gamble, but time needs to be played here. You're running out of it, Chichu. You're really rapidly running out of it. He doesn't know where it's played for. He was hoping for a chance, an opportunity. Swinging wide, and Solcast shuts it down.
A 13-11 loss on the final map of Lotus meant EDG were knocked down to the lower bracket. But it didn't get any easier. Their next opponents were the reigning world champions, Brazil's very own super team, Loud.
They screamed with Loud many times, and Aspas is really showing great during their screams, and Kang knows Aspas back then, and he looks really high on Aspas.
As it stands, EDG are on the cusp of eliminating Loud from this. And it's going to be a burst, and they're going to try and overwhelm towards the southern side. It's great from nobody! There's no way! No! There's no way! He's done this! The map 1 already in the pocket of EDG, and we have a walkout. Oh
my God!
He gets to! The captain, the leader, faces the music, faces the loss, and Loud are left in tatters as EDG live to fight another day.
When he's winning over Loud, he's crying on stage because there are a lot of pressure on him, on his shoulder, because that is the person that you looked up on, that is your idol, and when you faced on the stage with your idol, it feels different. But also, like, Kang himself knows that you can stop like just looking up upon them because you can be one of them.
Every match that this team won was a step forward for their region, as the world continued to see that China was at the level of other top teams. But their next match was nothing new. Another game against PaperX, but this time CGRS had stepped in to take something's place. It was a rematch of EDG's first international game, except this time, the stakes were higher than ever.
Timing, Forsaken, staring up towards the ceiling, on top of the ropes. Well, no kill found. Chichu's running and gunning, man, fully accurate. Why not? Trying to push them and punish them out of tower, but it's that 1-2 punch, that 1-2 combo. EDG, too damn good at playing off of one another.
EDG raced to an 11-4 lead, and with the economy, momentum, and scoreline on their side, it seemed impossible that EDG wouldn't take this map. But if you know PaperX, you know you can't ever predict their next move.
They're not worried, are they? But they're going up against the half-bite. Stunts. No way! Jingle movement is just impeccable. PaperX across the site, damage being done to a few of them here. Fault line to try and set them up once more, but they're winning their Angels out. And Chichu was found, caught in the moment. It's up to Smoggy. He's low enough, Forsaken just sticking it. They can spam the angle down. This is PaperX with a resounding comeback. 1 round away from taking the map. You can expect it. Time still running short. Davai hitting the shot and closing out the map.
For PaperX, it was a miracle. For EDG, it was heartbreak. Despite winning the next map of Split, Lotus let EDG down once again. PaperX had beaten EDG and knocked them out of Masters Tokyo. But EDG weren't ashamed. They were proud of what they'd accomplished. From 0 international wins to a top 6 finish, beating legends of the game in the process, and coming so close to reaching top 4 in the world. Masters Tokyo was the tournament where China proved they could compete on the global stage. And with Valorant finally officially releasing in China only a month later, the momentum building for the region was substantial.
For us, we know that this is the time that this will go big. We don't know how big it will be. We still don't know how big it will be in China, but we know it is a very good sign for all of the players. Because if this game won't be published in China, there is very little chance that you can have a very good career. And I think after the game is really published in China, they know that, okay, this is something that I can fully invested myself on.
But all of that begged the question, on the biggest stage Valorant had to offer, just how far could Chinese Valorant go? Champions 2023 promised to be a difficult tournament for EDG from the start, as they were placed once again in a group with PaperX. But their first opponents were Giants, the European LCQ winners, who were a good limit test for EDG. But this win was anything but solid.
Giants poised, ready to win split.
They don't have the util from the Rays. Kang went down earlier. And Nuki, what a player he is. Neural Thefts out. Nobody. He's going to try and salvage this. It's 2 versus 2. And time still available. Howdong though, he's running. Does not know that Cloud is close. And here's the Trailblazer. Nobody's done the most here, but can he do even more? It would have to be incredible. Doubled up Giants, leaving no gaps. But as I say that, 6 bullets! Nobody is an animal!
What a moment for nobody!
EDG still won though, which meant that they moved on to play against their biggest Asian rivals for the 3rd time in 4 tournaments. Except this time, PaperX didn't have a content creator sub, they had the highest rated player from the Pacific League instead. Something's arrival meant that PaperX were back at full strength, and despite Kang's best efforts, he just couldn't match up to the Russian duelist. Not when he was pulling out things like this anyway.
Adventure! Kang falls! It's PaperX in control. Lovely response, ready for it! And something in their faces!
Another overtime loss on Pearl sent the Chinese squad down to the lower bracket, and set up a rematch against Giants. But if you remember Masters Tokyo, you know they like a rematch in the group stage.
It's not quite lining up, and it looks like the side of EDG might have to do it in the next, because they're not really in a position here.
He's still going for it. He believes in himself, and I can see why. Already managing to clear out Cloud. Smoggy up top is going to put it into a 1v2. And this is the man you'd want in that scenario, but both players up above. A flash ready. Dodges it! What? Truly unbelievable!
But once the opening playoff games were drawn, it became clear that their next game would be their highest pressure match yet. Boostio was the in-game leader of Evil Geniuses, and a notorious trash talker. He never shied away from speaking his mind, whether that was on random podcasts or in press conferences, and for some reason, it seemed like he had a vendetta against Chinese Valorant.
China will never be better than NA, for one, in Valorant.
Ooh.
We will actually grind. We will make sure these Chinese teams will never be close to us. Only the Chinese. I think the Korean teams could do damage. I think any of the Asian teams could do damage, but China's 3 years behind. And I mean, if we play enough, they will not be, I don't think they'll be close to us.
That meant that this match had much more on the line than a regular game. If EDG won, then they would be able to prove everyone who doubted them wrong. But if they lost, then all of the trash talk they'd faced at the hands of their opponents would seemingly be proven right.
It's all down to Howdong in a 1v2 with 7 bullets. And right now, EG, they've absolutely crushed EDG. The villains have had their day!
It was a devastating loss to a team they were so desperate to beat. And of course, Boostio didn't hesitate to keep talking.
They are really good for Chinese team, but I don't know. They're not very good, to be honest. Kong was a disappointment.
But they had to shake off that loss pretty quickly, as they had to play the next day to keep their tournament run alive. Chinese second seed Bilibili Gaming had completed a miracle double upset over NRG in the group stage, and so it was a regional matchup to see if EDG could defend the throne of Chinese Valorant. And of course, they did. They'd matched their result from Tokyo, but to place any higher, they'd have to beat one of their opponents from that very tournament. Loud had a resurgence at Champs 2023 after losing to EDG at Masters Tokyo. EDG had beaten Loud before, but this was not the same beast. It would take an incredible showing to slay these Brazilian giants. Kong's surprise pick of Reyna won them bind, but Loud took ascent. It all came down to Haven. But with Loud up 11-6 and only 2 rounds away from taking the match, it seemed to be all over.
You have to clear Smoggy here.
This is very unlikely to be cleared.
No paranoia. Just the flash. Oh my gosh, Smoggy! Smoggy gets 3! Flash confirming some info. Smoggy! Oh, what was that from Smoggy? He's got the ult! And that's, I mean, there's nowhere for them to go!
23 seconds, the ultimate blind is here.
Look at where the spike is, man! Is this it? Are these the final touches on an outrageous series? Calatin on the swing, he's gotten 3 on the round. Smoggy only gets 1! Loud defend the throne, they take down EDG in the rematch and advance!
EDG left champions LA with a 5th-6th place finish, matching their achievement from Tokyo. And although they hadn't managed to convince Boostio of their improvement, it was clear to everyone watching that Chinese Valorant was here to compete against the best teams in the world. And with the start of a new year came a new VCT season and the dawn of VCT CN, China's official franchise league. The 10 founding teams of China's Tier 1 Valorant League were selected, with EDG of course being one of them. They kept the same roster heading into the 2024 season, with hopes of dominating the new Chinese league and bettering their international finishes of the previous year. And VCT CN started in the best possible way for the team, as they won the league's kickoff tournament to qualify for Masters Madrid as the top Chinese seed. With only 8 teams in attendance, it was a great opportunity for them to make a miracle run and clinch a top 4 international placement. But just take a guess at who their first opponents were. But this time, PaperX were not on top form, and EDG managed to deal with their aggression to take the series. They did get 1v5 though.
And well, it doesn't look too good for PaperX. You might think this is an E-goal, but it's not. The weaker weapon of Forsaken, good for 2. Maybe more to be found, but nobody low. He's 90 HP, finding another 3. For Forsaken!
That win gave them a 1-0 record, and into a match against Gen G, the surprise Korean super team. If EDG won this game, they'd secured top 4, after only playing 2 matches. Unfortunately, they didn't, and Gen G were the ones who went on the miracle run instead. EDG still had another chance at the playoffs though, with a match against Loud, but maybe they wish they hadn't.
Sneaky little play around the back. His opponent's none the wiser that he's going to be right up behind them. First kill's free, and he'll close it as well. It has been a map to forget for the side of EDG in the same way. Kawazid is going to put another in the dirt. It's left all onto nobody. And the fact is nobody is standing in Loud's way, closing out this series. A obliteration of EDG.
In what was one of the quickest defeats in international Valorant history, EDG won a mere 5 rounds across both maps against Loud. They were utterly obliterated, barely looking like a competitive team. It was a complete collapse, and the Chinese fans were not happy. 526 became a widespread meme across Chinese social media, with the team receiving immense amounts of hate over that loss.
我说的话也有错，现在这是我有罪，那你要不把我优化了，你妈了个逼的！天天骂我，天天骂我，你把我优化了行吗？真服了。
There's a lot of backlash. That's the biggest backlash that EDG can never get, like in their history in China.
And that wave of negativity meant that suddenly everything about Chinese Valorant was thrown into question. Could they really stand up to international competition? Was 2023 just a fluke year for EDG? And would we ever see a Chinese team win a major championship? And for fans of Chinese Valorant, these questions couldn't have come at a worse time. Masters Shanghai was a great opportunity for Chinese fans to come and see their teams in action, so the pressure was on for EDG to show a good performance. They qualified directly into the playoffs, but with FPX barely missing out on a playoff spot, they were the only Chinese team in the top 8. They chose Team Heretics as their first round opponents, but in hindsight this might not have been the best decision, as Woot, Heretics' prodigy duelist player, absolutely tore them apart. They only managed to win 9 rounds across 2 maps, and again looked completely outclassed on the international stage. That sent them down to the lower bracket, where PaperX were waiting for them. Neither team was on top form, but after losing a close first map, EDG couldn't pull it together and lost 0-2 to exit Masters Shanghai, their home tournament, in 8th place. EDG had crumbled. They struggled to find a new identity that could hold up against international competition. Kong had mostly abandoned the AWP to try and improve his rifling, but it just made their attack sides more predictable and meant that the team played with much less flair. The team in general looked quite lost, with communication errors in their games becoming routine, and they were mentally burnt out. Combine that with a lack of competition in their home region and players constantly switching roles, and the situation looked dire, and many wondered if the team could ever recover. EDG's haters came out in full force after Masters Shanghai, and the team was completely vilified on social media, even to the point of stopping them wanting to livestream, as the barrages of hate were just too much to bear. Death threats on their families were common, and Smoggy even picked up a nickname which referenced the old Chinese emperor, which when translated sounds similar to dead mother. This wasn't just a low point in terms of Valorant. On a human level, the team was at rock bottom. If EDG were ever going to become the beacons of Chinese Valorant once again, something had to change. That was made even clearer after their first match of Stage 2, where they lost to mid-table team Wolves. Haodong's performance was abysmal, something that was becoming more and more common from him, and a roster change had to be made. One of the problems with EDG was their lack of a dedicated KO and Breach player, 2 agents who were vital to the meta at the time. they scoured Asia for a young initiator player who could fill the role, and after an impressive tryout, chose to pick up Simon. Simon was a 20-year-old tier 2 player who specialised in neither breach or KO actually. He mostly played smokes, but was mechanically on point and had solid utility usage. He was fairly reserved and very coachable. All qualities that would let him slot into this chaotic EDG team very quickly, because he didn't have much time. But Simon wasn't the only change they made. They also decided to drop their head coach after and move 6-man Muggle into the coaching position instead, and because of Haodong's departure, Nobody, who was known for his questionable decision making, became the team's IGL. Haodong also didn't have any opportunities with another team, so he joined the staff as an assistant coach. The team dynamic had shifted considerably, and it was a complete gamble.
But for the community, it was very divided. On the one hand, people will say that why you're switching up your roster, because like Haodong also did very good performance back in 2023. Another hand maybe saying like, okay, this is the time we have to do some changes. If we don't, there's no go for this team.
But as the team continued to play, they improved significantly. They went on a flawless run for the rest of the domestic stage, with Kongkong's Neong tearing up the server. They qualified the champions as the first seed from their region, but although their regional form had improved, no one really expected them to do well at champions.
Back then, it still looks like, okay, EDG is back into its best form, but even when we're looking back into EDG's history, their best form is a top 6 in the national event.
A newly rebuilt roster, coming off some of the worst international performances we'd ever seen, still at the top of a stagnant region. How good could they really be?
All roads lead right here to Seoul. You got 16 teams from 4 international leagues, a shot at winning the sport's biggest trophy, and the right to say the words, I am a champion.
EDG are under a lot of pressure. They need to have a good, strong opening. In for a treat, Smoggy out wide, and what an adjustment it is. Almost inevitable, out of captain, a mad dash away, but into the open arms. EDG, a 2-0 finish.
EDG, love your playstyle, but unfortunately, your playstyle will be countered by ours.
EDG touching distance now. Jonah defusing half onto the board. This is for the map. Someone needs to stop this. Someone needs to stop this, but no one is there. G2, they steal the map away. EDG would need a miracle. They need it now. Smoggy to deliver, potentially no. G2 deny it all.
It's the final match of the group stage, and it can only end this way. Two teams who have encountered each other time and time again.
You cannot stand your ground. 13-3. It's domination.
没事啊，第一把练练枪嘛，没事，是啊。关键把这个这个六场，你的比赛不报，这啥你可以说出来。没他妈打不过，什么他妈打不过，等会儿就打过了。
PaperX not opting into this one. They need the guns, but it is just shambolic. Smoggy. Pure mechanics on display, and he will just rip them all away. And for Smoggy to be the hero his team needs in this spot to buy. Planting metal is used first, lowering them down, and spraying them down.
Now we have 8 teams locked in for playoffs, of course. And next up, we have the draw show ready.
They are good to go here. Tracy's never beaten EDG at home, but they've looked so much better here.
He didn't think it'd be that close, but Kongkong can divide, and Conker looking for a follow-up. He's got it.
That's it.
That's the spike down. He wants a bit more. He gets every single one of them. A close to perfection may not have ever been enough against these boys. Kang, the one to seal it surely, as just one remains. EDG proving why they are the representative, why they are the envoy from that Chinese region, looking so damn strong.
Sentinels will be the next opponents you face. How are you feeling about that upcoming matchup? And also, is there anything you'd like to say to Sentinels?
我只有一句话想说，就是我们的 Z 什么 KK 好像比你们的厉害。
And it doesn't get any better than this. Regional heavyweights, prolific teams from China and the Americas clash on this stage for the very first time. And the winner locks up top 3.
Leaving it just down to 10, and he's doing damage right through the wall. Isolates the one for Bullets! Oh boy! 10s take a miracle to stop it at this point. They are not ready to let it happen. EDG will not be denied a chance for greatness.
Sentinels have a mountain to climb.
When it's up to 12 rounds, EDG feel it. Spike pick back up, earns itself. Sassy a lot to adjust and overcome. Tens is down and out. EDG, they end it all. They take it over that line and they break past their limits.
Coming to you live from the South Korea's Inspire Arena. Leviathan taking on EDG.
东方龙肯定比西方龙厉害，告诉他谁才是真龙。
来吧，老帕，
老帕，想你了。
老帕，我想你了，老帕。Smoggy is forward in the pit, just staying hidden where possible. Mazzino, he catches straight onto Smoggy. Kong will be able to put down King, but Ospas with his own knives starts to take things down. Swap over Ospas a little bit faster on the draw. Kong, here flush against the pit, pushes up, finds two as King and Kong both fall to the floor, and now it is all in Mazzino. But he's been spotted, dealt with, and it cannot happen. Level 10 HP from Kong, with not a hope in hell. 4 players to try to work through it. He cannot get the first. 16 to 14. The wild spray, a reveal off the haunt, and Ospas getting ready to strike from behind. The slow creep up. Kong narrowly avoiding these pixels, but it seems like Kong is not registering this at all. But now, with the ult popped, he finds one. Paint shells coming through. Kong, he knows where he's at. He holds it to half. Eats a little bit more damage. But his teammates can realize this, and there's nothing more that Ospas can do. He's out of line of sight. He's outdone him in every possible way. The Red Bull clutch as EDG gets a map point. His life, cold, drugged, King, dead. Smoggy finds the kill, finds the follow-up, and now it's Calm on his lonesome, and he can't do jack.
我是个单亲家庭。我需要向他们证明我有能力去养活我们的单亲家庭。
我哥一直是我的榜样，多亏了他，我才能走到今天。主场拿下冠军，让我哥为我感到自豪。
This is the moment you've all been waiting for, the deciding best of 5 for the biggest trophy in Valorant. EDG taking the stage against Team Heretics. It is time for the grand finals of Champion Seoul.
And not only have they broken history, broken their own limits, but also potential chance to grasp that trophy, and the same could be said for Heretics. Down from the side, Warlord, Hunter's Fury, there is no escape. The rest of his team time has been bought and purchased. A mad dash and scramble. But an electrifying finish here to Haven. Heretics taking map number 1. Sponsored out, and now another reclear call. Gang, man. And running him down, hunting him down. They want him to get that ace. It's Heretics drifting, missing. And the shots matter right now. Smokey! God damn, man! The draw is caught, the plays being made all across the board! G2!
He is the immovable object of EDG.
And could we have it any other way? And that's an ace if I've ever seen one. Forced to press forwards potentially there, he's overstaying his welcome. Swings potentially, footsteps down! Simon! You demon in wait! How the hell has he pulled that off?
There's still many chances for EDG to take it to overtime.
Flank control, watch for, and like you said, the Thrash is going to be clearing and cleaving the way through. Path potentially. Here, lying in wait, Thrash is there alongside a sees his players need to be defended! Woot steps up to the challenge but dropped inside Kang! Overtime in sight! And EDG are hungry for it. Trying to will it forward, refuse to nade, but the shot's online! They don't have it! Time! It's not online, man! Heartbreak! for EDG. They will it forward. We are going to Abyss.
Nobody, and Tishu on an island, but nobody. What are you doing? Giving away your position here.
Yeah, I mean, fire in the dark.
He gets away with it.
The play was being made here, and they've lost control of it in the process. Oh my God! Nobody! Oh, goodness me!
He's come up with the pistol round that might have sealed the deal for China.
They dropped these Heretics players dead. Time against them once more. Boo needs to get this kill and will do just that. Defending, punched them, Rians, rounded him up, and it was looking like they were going to be denied that chance at a trophy. But fate wrangled, twisted out of the hands of these EDG players. The pressure shifted onto them, and Kang forced to step onto the moment. Dash to avoid, and shots are fired. Kang, he's monstrous when he gets going, and he does it almost single-handedly. It's one man. What can he do against the might of EDG? Absolutely squat.
Champion
I see tears. It's an emotional night for you. Tell us, what's behind the tears?
我觉得我们太他妈不容易了。从伊斯坦布尔到现在，我觉得这条路走得太难了。然后我觉得团队里的所有人为了这个梦想都特别努力。
Thank you so much for watching this far into the video. I know it's been a long one, but I hope you really enjoyed. Subscribe if you did, because we've got more consistent videos coming on the way, I promise. Shout out to Waywoods and ABR Hits for their translations on YouTube, to Wan Shunshi for research help for this video, and also for translating the official EDG documentary, and of course Alan for the interview. You can go and watch that full thing on my second channel. But with all that, I've been Commend, subscribe if you enjoyed, and thank you for watching.